you want to know about what the best diet for 2024 is going to be? I'm going to tell you, and it actually might surprise you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and like button and the notification bell so that you always know when I'm coming out with another video. All right, so let's talk about some diets that were really popular over 2023. And that is things like the carnivore diet, which is essentially just eating animal-based foods. So things like meats, cheeses, butter, all that type of stuff. It is very nutrient dense. However, you can't eat like fruit or vegetables, and they actually think that like vegetables are bad. And so there are like chemical compounds in certain like vegetables that make it, well, they're called anti-nutrients. I'm not going to get into that because that's really not what this video is about, but there are reasons for why they eat just strictly meat. And things like the keto diet, which has been popular for a long time, like that's not really anything new here. There's also things like Optavia, which is essentially just processed food that they make for you and you have to buy it. I could go on a whole tangent about why I think that's really dumb, because you're not eating real food, and they say that like all of the nutrients that you need are in it, but it's processed food. So how can you tell me that processed food could be better than just eating whole, clean food? Like, make that make sense. You know what I'm saying? Then there's things like the vegan diet, vegetarian diet. That whole thing is kind of like lost steam. I mean, people still eat that way because that's what they believe ethically is, you know, right? Or they just prefer that type of food. There's also, you know, cultural reasons behind that as well. But that in itself was more something that was popularized a couple years ago when Game Changers came out. And so now people have kind of moved on to the next best thing, which is what always happens, is they're just trying to find the next best thing. And then there's things like intermittent fasting, 1 meal a day, or alternate day fasting, and all of that stuff is, you know, good and well and whatever. But really, it's just another way to put yourself into a calorie deficit. So you're just restricting your calories throughout the day. Sometimes I find that people who have disordered eating, they don't do well on intermittent fasting, or they try to go a little bit too long with it. And one of the problems that happens is that you're not getting in enough calories. And so it kind of puts you back in the same place. So then if you go back to eating the way that you did before, then you just gain all the weight back. So with these fad diets, the biggest problem with all of them, especially things like Optavia, where you're eating like 1,100 calories a day, which is like the same amount that like a toddler eats or is supposed to eat, that is not the recommended daily intake for a fully grown adult. So get that out of your head. If somebody's telling you to eat 1,200 calories, like that's completely unnecessary. So one of the biggest challenges that people have when they go through these diets and they're searching for it is that they're looking for something to help them with the pain that they're suffering. You know, if that's the pain of not being able to find the right size at a store, or asking for a size larger, or maybe it's just that you feel uncomfortable in your skin and you don't feel comfortable when you look in the mirror. You don't want to go in, you know, wearing a dress or being in a bathing suit on the beach with your friends. Things like that are the pains and stuff that people feel. And, or even just like ordering food and like you just feel shame around it. But like food is not meant to be shameful. And the reality is that you've been lied to and tricked into thinking that all you need to do to lose weight is follow some of these torturous plans, and if you don't make it, then you're a failure. But really, it's the strategy behind it. Like, even when you look at things like Noom, for example, they'll tell you like, okay, yeah, eat like 1,200, 1,400 calories a day, which is not really a sustainable amount of calories. And that is a huge problem, because when people go into such an extreme diet, because the apps are like, oh yeah, you want to lose 2 pounds a week? Yeah, let's do that. So basically starve yourself, and then you fall off track, and now you feel like you failed. So then you eat your feelings back and you overeat. So you're eating like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 calories. And you do that for an extended period of time before you're like, all right, time to get on the next crash diet. So you go through that whole process again, and you end up gaining more weight back every single time. And it is that in itself should be like the biggest pain point, is being frustrated by having to go through the same cycle over and over again without being able to maintain or like keep your results, especially after you've been suffering by going through these stupid diets in the first place. And that's where the best diet of 2024 comes in. And I have to tell you, it is not a specific diet. What the F? I just waited all this time just to hear me babble about all these diets that don't work, and I'm not even going to tell you the one that does work. Well, I can't specifically say which one is going to be the one that's best for you, but I do still want you to stick around because there is a way for you to use strategies that are going to help you lose weight and keep it off in the long run. So the first thing that I will say is if you're trying to lose weight or lose fat, whatever, you need to be in a caloric deficit. So that is taking whatever you're currently eating right now and slashing an amount off of that. Now, the thing is that when you go and do that, it's not the least amount of calories that you want to diet on. You want to diet on the highest amount of calories that you could possibly eat because that's what makes it easier. So when you apply a modest deficit, it makes it easier for you to stay on the plan long term instead of cutting it off, making such a drastic change where you slip up one day and it feels like you've gone so far off track. But imagine if your calories were higher and you had more food freedom and more calories to play with. You're not having to cut out this, that, and, whatever. Like, oh, I love my coffee, but now I can't have my coffee with even cream in it because I don't have enough calories. Like, don't torture yourself like that. Make a list of your non-negotiables. What are things that you want to include in your week, every single week, without negotiating? Like, these are uncompromised things. I had a client who every single Friday night she wanted to have date night with her boyfriend, who is now her fiance, and every Friday night they would do a pizza night. And so pizza was part of her strategy. And you can easily implement something like this when you do something like calorie cycling, which is staggering your calories so you have a combination of lower days and high days. With calorie cycling, it allows you to be more flexible with your plan because you already know which days you're going to have as your high days, which days you're going to have as your low days, and what those calories are. And you essentially take whatever your deficit number is, you multiply that by 7 days, pick 2 days that you want to have high calorie days and get those out of the way, take the remainder of it and divide that by 5. So you can do this for like 3 high days, 4 low days, or 2 high days and 5 low days. And they don't have to be super low because it just matters that you're averaging it out over the week. So if you want help with this, you can click on the link below and it's going to take you to a little guide on how you can do this. It'll calculate what is going to be a deficit for you, how much calories you need to be in a diet, and then it's going to show you what your high and your low days will look like. So when you strategize keeping in high days and low days and all of that, this is going to keep you on the plan longer. So once you've hit that plateau and you're not seeing any changes in your measurements, your photos, or on the scale, then what you're going to do from there is you're going to take off 100 calories from the high days and 100 calories from the lower days. So remember, this is the reason why you want to keep your calories as high as possible, because when you start off high with your calories, you have room to keep making those changes and, titrate down with them. So instead, if you started at 1200 calories, which would be like the absolute bottom of the bottom, like there is nowhere to go from that. So when your body's adapted to those calories, that's it. You've just reached the bottom and now you have to reverse diet, which means that your diet plan that you went on was cut short because you used up all of your tools and the ammunition in the first round. So the cardio that I would recommend for this is really just focusing on walking and expending your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So just getting your steps in, really. You don't have to do cardio. You don't have to join these fitness classes where you're just staring at your watch, seeing how many calories you burned. It's not about burning calories so that you can eat more. You eat the amount of calories that you are given on those days. Anything that you burn from exercise is just, it is what it is. You're not adding them back. Next thing to focus on here is making sure that you're eating enough protein. And I've talked about this in so many of my videos where, protein is such a good tool to have in your arsenal, because if you're not eating enough protein, for one, you're probably going to lose muscle mass, which you don't want to do because that's going to slow down your metabolism further. And so to preserve that, or even be in the realm of possibility to grow muscle and build it while you're in a fat loss phase, it's super important to have at least, I would say, if you have a goal weight, use your goal weight for this, because if you have a lot of weight to lose, then maybe like you don't want to be eating like 200 grams of protein, for example. But conservatively, I would say at minimum getting 120 grams of protein in per day would be really important. But if you know what your goal body weight is, then you can do 0.8 grams per body weight to 1.2. And so you would just calculate that based on your goal body weight, and there you have your number. And all of these tips and this strategy of trying to lose weight is going to make it so that you can actually lose weight and keep it off for good. These other strategies where you're constantly in like a yo-yo diet, meaning like you are going and eating really low calories, then you go and you overeat, then you go and eat really low calories and you overeat. All of that just leads to more and more weight gain. And it's not just the weight that's coming on, you're also developing more fat cells, which makes it harder for you to lose weight the next time. There have been studies that people who are chronic yo-yo dieters have higher instances of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and there's so many other ailments that come along with not being able to manage the weight properly, but also constantly fluctuating between these two extremes. And so if you want to get off of this yo-yo dieting cycle, I would first start by just going down to the description below and download that guide and find out what your calories are supposed to be, find out how much you should be eating, and then start with that. I've also left a link below for a free metabolic assessment, and that will tell you whether you are in a good place to go through a diet or if you're not in a good place to go through a diet. There will be times in life where it's not okay to go for a diet, and that's because of things like you've been dieting for too long without taking a break. You don't even know what eating normal feels like. So if that sounds like you, then maybe it's time to actually start focusing on rebuilding your metabolism instead of going through yet another diet. And rebuilding your metabolism is going to help you so much, because that means the next time you go to try to lose weight, it will actually work because your body's cooperating with you. So that is all I have left to say, but I just want to wish everybody happy holidays, happy new year. And if you need help with your 2024 goals, be sure to check out the link below for the metabolic assessment. And please do me this last favor and show me a little bit of love. Hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe, because I'm trying to grow my channel. I know, what a plea. Anyways, that's all.